Before we get started, I want to thank our first partner, Response Ready Medical. Response Ready Medical, bringing our customers the best quality training and equipment for the worst case scenario. Response Ready Medical's vision is to be the leading provider of emergency preparedness solutions across the United States, empowering communities, organizations, and individuals to respond confidently and preserve life during critical moments. Offering same-day certification, all Response Ready Medical classes are instructed by nationally registered and state-licensed firefighter, paramedics, law enforcement officers, and hospital staff. Classes currently being offered by Response Ready Medical include CPR and AED, CPR, AED, and first aid, emergency trauma care, child and babysitting safety, CABS, backcountry medicine, and wilderness first aid. Your premium partner in emergency preparedness, Response Ready Medical. Welcome to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, a place where backcountry warriors can share their stories of grit, service, healing, and wilderness adventures. I'm your host, Tom Walton, Marine Corps veteran, full-time cop, and aspiring hunting and fishing guide. Join me and others as we journey from the hood to the woods in pursuit of freedom in the outdoors. Welcome to episode 5 of the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast. I'm your host, Tom Walton, joined today by active duty airman and hunting guide, Dave Williams. I got to meet Dave a few years ago at one of the Armed Forces Initiative Veterans Turkey Camps that I was a mentor at. Dave is a hardworking and skilled outdoorsman, and we hit it off and struck up a lasting friendship. Born in Cleveland, Ohio, Dave started hunting small game as a kid. Dave started big game hunting in 2011 and currently stationed in San Antonio, Texas. Dave is still on active duty, but has managed to get back to Idaho, where he's been a big game hunting guide for the last 3 years. And with that being said, I want him to be able to tell his story rather than me tell it. So Dave, welcome to the show. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Appreciate you having me on.
I really appreciate you coming on in these early days. And I think you're going to bring a lot of value to the show. And it's really late over there in Texas, at least by my standards. So thanks for doing that for me.
Yeah, no problem. Not at all.
So we'll just go ahead and get started, man. Why don't you tell the listeners about where you grew up and how you got involved in the outdoors?
So I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. No one in my family was really, into the outdoors or hunting. But my grandma actually owned a bison ranch in southern Ohio around the Asheville area. So we would get sent out there for the summers as slave labor, pretty much, to help out around the farm. And then through that, hanging out with uncles and cousins and stuff who were all into the outdoors, I started to get into hunting, spending time outside, camping. I guess in my family, I was the only one that it really stuck with. So I grew up small game hunting, did a few deer hunts, but then, as I got older, football, school, yeah, I really just it kind of fell off for me until I joined the Air Force, actually.
Awesome, man. Well, why don't you just go ahead and tell us about why you ended up joining the Air Force and what it was that drew you to service, since service is kind of a big part of our podcast.
Yeah. So I definitely knew, I think probably around middle school, that I wanted to be in some sort of like law enforcement or the military. I think I got that from playing sports, football. I enjoyed the camaraderie, the uniform, stuff like that. So all throughout high school, I started exploring options, and I was actually, it's a funny story, I was in the delayed entry program for the Coast Guard before I was for the Air Force, right around 2009, 2010. And I went into the Coast Guard office one day, because we had DEP meetings like once a month, and the guy was like, hey, sorry, like we have like a hiring freeze going on. We're not sure like when it's going to start back up. And being freshly graduated out of high school and ready to go, he was like, how eager are you to get out the door? And I was like, I want to go like now. So he's like, okay, come with me. So he kind of like grabbed me by the shirt collar, drugged me past the Army, Marines, and the Navy recruiters and dropped me off at the Air Force guy. And, 15 years later, here we are.
Good man. It was nice of him to skip those branches for you. And it's funny how fate works out, because, I mean, man, if you joined the Coast Guard, who knows what direction your life would have gone. I'm glad you ended up in the Pacific Northwest. So you joined the Air Force, and how long have you been in the Air Force now then?
I've been in for 15
years. So I'm guessing you're going full 20?
Yeah. Yep. Starting to count down. I got 3 more years here in San Antonio, and then with any luck, I'll end up in Colorado, and I'll do my last tour there.
Outstanding, man. Well, a lot of guys are probably in your shoes. A lot of guys probably are thinking about what they're going to do when they get out, especially doing 20. It's not necessarily, I mean, you get your benefits, not like it's enough to carry you or provide a real substantial living, right? You get medical and
Exactly.
a paycheck, but a lot of guys get out and they do kind of a second career. I've seen that a lot in law enforcement where, we get guys that have retired after 20 years, sometimes even 30 years. And they're those ones are the crazy guys that just feel like they need to keep working. But anyways, man, I ramble. So you're probably thinking about what you're going to do when you get out of the Air Force, which kind of leads me to believe I have an idea because you're currently a big game hunting guide, mostly in Idaho. Is that kind of correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, thanks to you and when we met at that AFI turkey camp years ago, I actually got an opportunity to go out and bear hunt and become a licensed guide and been invited back every year since. So I must be doing something right. But yeah, that's kind of the plan after I get out, hoping to just guide full time, river, big game, whatever I can get my hands on that'll keep me outside.
Awesome, man. I can empathize with that for sure. Just out of curiosity, what was it that got you interested in becoming a big game hunting guide or, any kind of hunting or fishing guide?
I've given this some thought, over the couple of years. So like, why am I doing this when, I could be out hunting for myself? And it really came down to, I feel like most guys do it to make some money, spend some time outdoors. Actually, like what I enjoyed about it the most was helping others succeed, being there when that moment happened. Whereas like I get to go out and do this amazing type of like mountain backcountry hunting every year. These guys might only get to do it once or twice, and they paid for a guide to help make it happen. So being a part of that moment, hopefully it's ending in success. I think that's really what drives it.
And I think that kind of attitude is what separates the successful and long-term guides from the short-term guides. And not that I'm a long-term guide with a ton of experience would know, but having have my toes in the industry for a little bit now definitely seems to be the case. 'Cause that's what it is for me. I love sharing my passion with the wilderness and wildlife, hunting, fishing with other people. And just like you said, I love being there for that moment of success. I love helping people find that success. And that's why even when I'm not guiding, I like to go out and mentor hunters. That's a big deal for me, especially in turkey season, because it's easier.
Yeah.
I don't say it's easy, but lots of opportunity in turkey season to take newer hunters or inexperienced turkey hunters that are interested out and just share that passion with them. And
Really, I kind of had an epiphany moment actually before I became a like licensed big game hunting guide. I enjoyed taking out like friends and family and stuff. And one of my good buddies from back in Ohio, best man at my wedding, we've been friends for 20 plus years, had never been out west to hunt. So it was my crazy idea. And I'm like, hey, let's go get a tag, come out here. He picked up a tag for the Missouri Breaks region in Montana. And anyone that's listening or knows anything about that country, it is horribly rough. The deer hunting is great if you can get far enough away from folks. But not only did I take him into this rough backcountry setting, we did so in a canoe over 65 miles going down the river. And we were successful on that hunt. And, watching my buddy get his first Western big game animal and like seeing the look on his face and some of the cool pictures that we took on that. And, he's just like me. He's a kid from Ohio. He's never experienced anything like. And for us to go out and go on that adventure down that river, every year we talk about it, and he still talks about it every year and tells all of his buddies and shows them pictures. And, that lasting memory there, and especially because that was a successful hunt. It was just awesome to be there for that moment for him. And then I got another guy hooked on hunting out west.
yeah, that's awesome, man. And I love the river part of that story too. I mean, obviously the first time out west and successful hunt's great, but I love hunting on rivers. It's turning into kind of my thing. I'll talk to you about some of the river adventures that I've gotten to go on here in Idaho, up in Alaska, but it's fun, man. Rivers are just an incredible way to get out and hunt. It's cool because you talked about sharing an experience that other people don't get to experience. You brought it up a couple of times, talking about one of the reasons why you like being a guide, because you get to do this pretty frequently and some guys don't get to very often and they spend their hard-earned money to do it.
Exactly.
I definitely like like that aspect of guiding too, is, you know, bringing somebody into a world that's not a world they're normally a part of. And it's cool because you and I actually got to share a client, for lack of better terms, Cody, and hopefully Cody doesn't mind me talking about him on the podcast, but Cody's an outstanding guy. And when I had him out for a lion hunt a couple of years ago, that was a lot of what we talked about, was just how it was so different for him out west. You know, his biggest hurdles for him were lack of knowledge, lack of backcountry experience, and I mean, just the basics of what am I going to do with my meat if I get something, and you know, what kind of gear do I need? How do I camp out here? You know, it could be overwhelming. And he's a very smart, capable guy. But we had a lot of discussions like that. And unfortunately, our cat hunt, just the conditions were horrible and it didn't quite work out. But we struck up a good friendship as well. I'm friends with him still. But he came back out, I think it was that spring, and you got to guide him. And I think that was your first trip as a guide, right?
Yeah, that was my first trip as a guide. And Cody, first of all, great guy. Again, like you said, I hope he doesn't mind us talking about him. Yeah, I just remember being like nervous, even though like it's something that I did regularly, especially bear hunting. Very passionate about bear hunting, out west, mountain style. But as I ramble, yeah, I just remember being so nervous, just trying to guide this guy and just make sure he had a good experience. And you know, I liked being there, like just talking different experiences. He was from, you know, back east, and, you know, sometimes you take for granted as a guy who lives out here, or hunts out here, like how to do all the little things like you're talking about, like meat and, or meat care, camping, you know, especially in like Grizz country. But yeah, seeing that dude light up, when he finally got that bear, which was a rodeo of a story, by the way. But yeah, it was awesome, especially as a first-time guide, to have a happy client and be successful on that hunt. Awesome. It was a great feeling.
Yeah, that was really cool, and it was quite the story. You know, I actually was out at one of our AFI turkey camps over in Washington and couldn't be there for that trip. But when I got the pictures, I was pretty excited, man. And he's just an outstanding guy, and to have him get some success sure meant a lot to me. So I don't know if I thanked you enough, but I'll thank you again. Thank you for taking him out and doing him justice, man. He really deserved that bear. So, and it was a nice bear too. It was a beautiful bear.
Yeah, it was a very big bear, especially for, I think that was his first bear. I'm not sure. I don't remember if it was his first bear, but it definitely was his first bear out spot and stalk style hunting like we were doing and trucking through the mountains. So that was super cool.
Yeah, he was a happy fella, and we ended up taking care of him. I ended up with his meat in my freezer from that bear, and then butchered it. Yeah, so I butchered that. I just you know, save him some hassle. Not something that you probably do for every client. So if there's guys listening right now, don't expect that from your guide service on a regular basis. Maybe some, but I don't think that's not always the norm, that your guide service will butcher, package, and ship your meat back for you. You know, some may do that, but definitely not all of them. But yeah, that was an awesome experience, man. And I talk to Cody all the time, and he remembers that hunt, and he will for the rest of his life. So that was a job well done. But, you know, moving on, I know for me, guiding hunts is not always easy, and it's not always as glorious as it appears. You know, and I'm not the most experienced guide, but I remember mornings, especially on lion hunts with Cody and then the client before him that year, getting up at like 1 a.m. before everybody else to get things ready, to go out and, in that case, look for tracks before people got up, trying to find a lead to take the client to. You know, as soon as we got out there, it was grueling. I mean, a few hours of sleep at best. I remember driving to go get to the clients because I was staying in a cabin that was a little bit away from the cabin they were staying in, and just thinking to myself, I'm like, man, why do I want to do this again? You know, it was a grind, a type 2 fun. But one of those mornings, I remember we had taken snow machines in the dark into this drainage. You know, it was a northwest running mountain range, so we drove west into the drainage, and coming out in the morning with the sun coming up over the valley and the snow, and you know, it was just one of the most beautiful sights I'd seen, and it was so cool to be riding snow machines at that time of day looking for cat tracks. And I was like, oh yeah, that's why I want to do this, because it's what a great place to be, and what a great way to meet with people. I go on that long tangent to ask you, what are some of the challenges that you've encountered as a guide When does it get hard for you so far?
Well, like you said, some of those mornings waking up, especially during my favorite time of the year, bear season, your days are super long, especially in the Pacific Northwest, northern Idaho area. That sun's starting to peak up about 4:30. As the guide, I got to get up, make sure everything's ready to go, make sure their gear's good to go, make sure breakfast is ready, lunch is ready. So as soon as they're rolling out of the tent, probably an hour before I am, making sure those guys have everything they need to go. Definitely one of the challenges, honestly. I haven't really faced too many challenges other than I've had the client makes everything, right? If you get a good client that's willing to do, kind of whatever it takes to get the animal that has a good attitude and is positive, that that for me can make or break a hunt. I've ran into a couple clients now where um, maybe the hunt wasn't meeting their expectations, or maybe they weren't seeing the amount of game that they had thought that they were going to. And just like a negative attitude from really the client, probably the biggest challenge of being a guide is trying to overcome that. And then, you're trying to hunt and you're trying to help them, or you're trying to locate an animal for them to, potentially take a shot at. And with them on top of trying to manage a client that maybe isn't so positive or didn't have the right attitude coming out, that would probably be the most challenging thing that so far I'd have found as a guide.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. And I've had those clients too where they make the hunt pretty miserable. And it's hard because you still have to put on the positive face, right? I mean, you're not responsible for other people's attitude, but you have to set the example and you have to maintain a positive outlook, at least according to the client, even when you don't want to. So
Right.
that's a tough one for sure. What are some of the things that you've done to overcome those moments, man, and try to turn that around for the client? What's some of your tactics for that?
Subtly setting the expectations of, maybe what tomorrow is going to look like. And then, like you said, setting that example of, having that good attitude, joking around, trying to lift their spirits up, talk, engage. And any other guide or anyone that's gone on a guided hunt can tell you that if you're not going to talk to your guide or joke around and have fun, it just makes for a long week of hunting. Some of the coolest and best conversations that I've ever had have been with just clients sitting on the side of a mountain while we're glassing or doing whatever. But definitely setting that example with that positive attitude and being reassuring that, like, hey, it's going to happen. We're going to see something. We just got to keep working, keep grinding, keep your head high, spirits high, trying to, yeah, keep their spirits up is pretty much it. Or maybe not hiking as hard as you would want to that next day. I had a couple guys that were from the southern part of the United States come out this year, and they hadn't really prepared very well. They like to indulge in their drinking and all that while in camp, and it kind of made for some like miserable hikes. So, and this was actually, twist of fate thing. I took them out one day. We went kind of on an easier hike, glassed some lower level or like lower elevation stuff, and actually got a shot opportunity at a nice black bear. And client couldn't get comfortable basically on his rest, and that opportunity walked away. But manage those expectations, keep the spirits high.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, man. Managing expectations is huge as a guide. And like you said, being encouraging. Guests gonna say, hey, man, we're gonna get in tomorrow. We got the perfect setup. We know what we're gonna be doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just maintain that positive attitude. And, it kind of makes me want to ask you, and I wasn't originally even thinking about asking this, but if you're talking to some potential clients out there that might be listening, people that are looking to maybe go on a guided hunt out west, in the few years that you've had under your belt now, what's some advice that you would give those clients to be, one, prepared to, maybe physically prepared, mentally prepared, but just what can they do so that they can come out and have the best time possible?
Well, I kind of hit on it before. Attitude is everything. Come out expecting to have fun. Expect to work, especially if you're going to come out west, or especially hunt in the Pacific Northwest. Expect to work, expect to have fun. A lot of that type 2 fun. Have a good attitude, and get in the best shape that you possibly can. Not only is that good for you in life, but it's going to help you out tremendously on hunts ahead. as an example, too, I mentioned the two fellows from the southern part of the states that, you know, kind of admitted they didn't do much preparing for this hunt, and it kicked their butt and kind of dropped their morale versus two other guys. These guys were veterans. They were currently on the SWAT team. They were in great shape. And I'm sure you could talk to, a guy with SWAT mentality and prior Marine yourself. Those guys were hilarious. The spirits were always high. Unfortunately, we were only able to get one of the two, a bear, but they didn't care. It was super cool to see. So get physically fit as much as you can, whether that's treadmill, lifting some weights, strengthening up your legs and your core is going to be essential. I would say the best thing that you could possibly do is ruck or run with some sort of weight on your back. That's going to be, as a guide, that's what I do is I'm getting, prepped for the season, and also being in the military, that helps me too. But, that's the same thing that I'm doing. I'm lifting weights and I'm rucking and I'm running for either distance or as high as vertically as I can get, which is kind of hard down here in Texas. It's pretty flat, at least where I'm at.
Yeah, flat, not a lot of altitude down there, I wouldn't think.
No, I'm currently sitting at 748 feet.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask you directly what your favorite thing about guiding was. You kind of answered that in, sharing your passion and being there for that moment of success with your client. Do you have anything that you want to add to some of the highlights about being a hunting guide? Reasons why you just still you love it and you want to try to make this a full-time career in a few years?
I mean, well, not to kind of point out the obvious, but I'm getting paid to hunt, which is pretty awesome.
Yes, sir.
But but like I said, if you're coming into guiding to make a bunch of money and get rich, find something else to do, because it's probably not going to happen just as a guide. If you're going to do this and, be successful, you do it for the adventure. You do it because, I hate sitting at a desk 9 to 5. I'd rather be outside doing something, spending time in the mountains, seeing those sunrises, being up before the sun sets. When your office is the side of a mountain in September and you can hear bulls bugling all around you, I'm getting excited just, thinking about all that stuff right now. So,
And you got me excited about it for sure. I couldn't agree more. I haven't talked a lot about it yet on the show, but I have pretty huge dreams and aspirations of continuing to guide. I particularly have my focus set on the great state of Alaska. I definitely want to guide here in Idaho some more. I mean, I love Idaho. Plan on probably maintaining my primary residence here for a long time, but
yeah,
yeah, having been in this a little bit now, I can echo that. You're not going to generally get rich being a hunting guide, and you really have to do it because you love it, because you love connecting with people in the outdoors. It has to be your passion. And you're right, man. I'm a detective right now, and I love my job. I love being on the SWAT team, but the detective part of my job, sitting in a cubicle and on the computer, is like the hardest thing that I've ever had to do. I'm just not an office guy, and I'm sorry to my boss, if you're listening. I'm very grateful for my job. Please don't take it away from me. But yeah, man, I'm right there with you. I just love being out when the sun's coming up. It's probably my favorite time of day. I love the interactions with wildlife, and I love sharing it all with people and teaching and mentoring. It's really, really absolutely special. So I think that you have to have that mindset, man.
yeah, absolutely. I think you just said one thing too that kind of, sparked an idea in me, that the mentoring thing, teaching people. It kind of depends on the guide. I've seen some folks do it and others not. But what I like to do is, this is also part of, kind of keeping a client engaged, so they're not just following you around the mountain kicking rocks. I like to try to explain to them everything that we're doing, or that I'm doing, what I'm looking for, when I'm looking for, say, a good area for where a bear is going to be. Picking up, certain types of forbs and grasses, and being like, a bear's going to like this type of grass versus this type of grass. That's why we're here in this area. That's why we had to do this 2.5 mile, 45-degree angle straight up climb to get up to, this ridge, because this is where we're going to have the best shot. But like, just trying to teach and keep your client or a buddy, youth, military, whoever, keep them engaged and like let them know what you're doing, pass on that knowledge. So maybe one day they decide to go from not going on a guided hunt, right, which would be bad for business for us, but still, and, going out there and trying to go out on their own. I'd like to think that maybe I gave them a small, like, base set of skills that they can go off of.
Absolutely, man. I mean, we're not here to hinder people, if they want to go out and do it on their own. If, getting a guided hunt becomes a one-time thing, or, maybe
Uh-huh.
they're just trying to learn, and sometimes getting a guide, especially for your first out west trip, is a really good way to learn and to get into it. So I would encourage people to
Absolutely.
do that. And even if you don't intend on being a return customer, but one of the fun things about being a guide is the return customers. And like Cody,
Yep.
right? I mean, he was a
Yeah.
return customer for me, and the friendships that you can build guiding, and probably just because you're usually around somewhat like-minded people and doing
Mhm.
really cool things, it tends to bond you with folks, which is really special.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty cool. I have clients reach out to me all the time. I'm actually myself, another guide, and those two SWAT guys I was talking about from the East Coast. We have a group chat where we talk maybe once a week or send funny memes, pictures, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it's really cool. Definitely have made some friends doing this that will be lifelong.
man,
Spend 5 days in the mountain with someone, you get to know them real, real well.
that's the good stuff right there, brother. That's awesome. Well, I can tell you, it just makes me so happy to see your success as you continue to come back to Idaho and guide. It was such a privilege and an honor to have played even just a tiny role in that, for sure. So great work, man.
Yeah, no, for all the listeners out there, the guy hosting this podcast, without him, I would not be a big game guide. He gave me my first shot, and I kind of helped fulfill a childhood dream, which I'm getting to live out right now. So, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. I look forward to doing stuff like this and working with you more in the future as we go on.
I appreciate it, man. I tell you, it's uh like I said, my privilege, my honor, and I think you and I have talked about it a little bit before, but being a man of faith, it's all about giving back. And if you remember John White, who was just on the last episode before you, so everyone's kind of gotten to know him. He once told me, when I asked him, like, John, why do you just give so much of your time to people, taking them turkey hunting? And I understand why, and I have my own reasons why. But one of the things that he told me a long time ago that stood out when I asked him was he was trying to outgive God. And not that that's possible, it's absolutely impossible. But that's
Right.
always resonated with me, man. And I just want to be the guy that can help others around me, lift them up to success, and try to outgive God. I think that's just a important quality for a man to at least try to live by.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree anymore with everything that you just said. Faith's very important to me, my family down here, and it's definitely something you got to carry with you. And I like that saying that John said. I haven't met him a few times too. That adds up. That's definitely something that man would say.
Absolutely. So I want to ask you just a couple more things before we go here.
Yeah, of course.
One thing is, you mentioned family. So you are a family man, and I'd like to know a little bit about what you got going on in your family life and how you manage being a family man, being an active duty serviceman. And if I haven't said it, thanks for your service to our country. But how do you
Thanks.
manage those things with trying to be an aspiring hunting guide?
Gosh, having a very understanding wife. I haven't talked a whole lot about my job, but I do play in a law enforcement role. Part of what I do specifically involves traveling a lot. So part of my area operations, we cover all the way from Mississippi up to Kentucky over to New Mexico. So all those air bases we lend support to when they need it. So I'm gone probably every other weekend for 4 days here, 5 days there. And on top of that, taking 3 weeks off this spring to disappear into a place in the mountains where I don't have service and just a satellite communicator. Having a very understanding spouse that encourages me and supports me doing all these things. That's the number one thing. Especially, I left for spring bear season this year, just 3 weeks after we got married, actually. So that I have a very understanding wife.
Well, I guess you set the expectation off right away in the marriage, right? I'm in the same boat, and I couldn't agree more, man. The job thing, you figure it out, but having an understanding wife at home is the key to everything. And I know I have pushed my poor wife to her limits, and she's still here, and I think she still loves me. And I'm so blessed to have her in my life, and she's the same way. She always supports me and she wants me to do whatever it is I want to do because I'm a big child, and she's
Yep, I
awesome
can.
for sure.
Same here.
So
Yeah,
the
and then
go ahead,
yeah,
bud.
just work, just yeah, having the support of your spouse or your family, but also doing that time management. There's tons of hunts where I could take off for 3 or 4 days and fly up and guide, and but kind of having that inside of me voice that says, hey, let's spend some time with the family, and just having that balance there too, because you got to take care of your family.
Yeah, man. I mean, family comes first, right? Do you have kids?
No kids, but they are in the talks. So in the next few years here, we'll have some little ones.
I think that's awesome. And something about I think a man who's going out and not just dedicated to service to your country and your community, but dedicated to pushing yourself to be more, to go out and do these hard things and to, I think, build a career that is a real legacy. And your military service is going to be an obvious legacy that your kids will be proud of. But I mean, what great stories that you're going to have to share with them when they get older. And even more so, you can't take your kids on your Air Force career. But something that I know I look forward to is taking the little ones in my life, along for the ride on my hunting career because I can take them, maybe not always to Alaska when they're younger, but definitely I hope that someday when, they're older. And for those of you who don't know, I have a couple of step grandkids and I just dream about taking them into the woods when they're older to go out and see what it is we do. And I don't mean just the fun little hikes in the neighborhood, which we do already, and those are great. That's the building blocks, but wilderness experiences to share it with them. So I think that you are well on track to some great times with your family.
Yo, I appreciate it. That's definitely something that I'm looking forward to. With both of the boys that we're gonna have, speaking that into existence. Even though my wife wants one each, but yeah, being able to have that spare time, because I'll be retired by then. Hopefully, before they can remember, any sort of military service. It can be kind of rough on kids moving around, but raising some kids and getting them in the mountains and making some memories, and that's probably what I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Well, that's great. In speaking of legacies and things to do with your family, are you looking or have hopes of eventually owning your own outfit business, or are you gonna try to just stay in the guide role?
We'll see. I always wanted to own my own outfit, but kind of seeing kind of some of the struggles and barriers to entry to, starting an outfit, or, especially in Idaho, where some of the rules are different than other states as far as how many, outfitters you can have in an area. We'll see. Right now, I'm just gonna keep doing my thing. I got 5 years of service left. Probably be moving up close to you once I get out. So, and we'll go from there. I think we got a
Yeah,
good,
can't wait.
solid plan. Yeah.
Nice, man. Well, can't wait to get you back up here full time. I think you're doing the smart play, man. I mean, it's great to have aspirations of owning an outfit, and it's definitely a good progression of that career path. But I'm with you. Having experienced it, having briefly been an owner of an outfit, or at least part owner, the headaches are many. And Idaho doesn't make it easy these days, man. I really hope that the state gets that figured out. That's a whole another podcast, I think, if for those who would be interested. Yeah, I just for now intend to do the guide thing, find good outfitters to work for, work hard for them, and I hope that they'll want to keep me around. So,
Yeah,
yeah, man,
definitely.
as we wrap up, any big hunt plans for this upcoming fall 2025 season?
Let's see. So my time is slightly limited this year due to some family stuff, taking some time off to go see, some grandparents and stuff I haven't seen in years. But I will be back up. I have a couple of hunters coming in early to mid-November. A couple clients going on a couple deer hunts, which would be fun. One of those is a mule deer hunter, which is my second favorite animal to hunt other than bears. If you can't tell, I like to suffer on the hunts that I go on. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I've been poking around and doing a few local things down here in Texas. Actually, recently just traded a ram hunt for a couple days at guiding Dad out in the hill country in Texas, and I will never do that in the summertime again. It was hot, 5 degrees hot, and it was not a fun experience. But yeah, I got to go out and hunt a ram on a low fence property, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's going to be a slow year for me this year, but I'm going to try to take advantage. I assume that a lot of the folks that are going to listen to this are military. I just found this out this year, so this will be part of my hunt plans for all the military guys out and gals listening that are interested in hunting. Check your outdoor rec programs on your base. The base that my wife is stationed at, because she's active duty as well, they allow bow hunting on the base. I think it's $180 fee for the year or for the season, and then you can just, turn you loose on the base, and you can go find a spot to, hang a stand, or down here everyone hunts off feeders or set up a feeder, do whatever. So if you're in a, public land restricted area like I am down here in Texas, check out your outdoor rec, see what programs they have, because they always offer at least something.
Man, what a great piece of advice. And I definitely encourage people to do that. And hopefully the Armed Forces Initiative community is on top of that. And I don't know if have you been plugged in with them since Turkey Camp?
So I have renewed my membership every year, because it's a good place to, send a couple bucks every year. But I have not lately.
Yeah, I wonder.
But I need to.
Yeah, I wonder if they're on top of that. I mean, that's a huge thing. Hopefully they're getting the word out to people, because that's really cool. But yeah, man. Well, you always get after it. I've seen some pictures with you that you've sent with some pretty awesome critters that you've gotten to hunt and take, and you're making the most of your situation down there in Texas. So I'm pretty stoked for you, and look forward to seeing what's going on, man. I really hope that one of these days here soon we can stop screwing around. Most of this always on my fault, because I'm the one that flakes out, but I would love to get in the woods with you. Maybe there's a spring bear hunt in our future. I've got some pretty cool plans for this next spring that involve jet boats and rivers, and I bet you I could squeeze an extra dude on there in April.
You will not have to yank my chain too hard to get me on that boat, especially if it's where I think it is. It's on my bucket list of bear hunts. But yeah, we'll get together. If not this November, this coming spring. But yeah, it'll be good. Good to get back up there. I'm excited to retire from the military, close that chapter, and move on. Even though I still got 5 long years left.
Yeah, man. It'll go by fast, I'm sure. I always tell myself that too when I'm like, dude, can I just be retired already? I'm like, it'll go by fast, halfway there. Yeah, man, we'll be in the woods together. I'm sure of it. I think bears are probably up there as one of my favorite critters to chase. And after my experience with mule deer this last fall, I would say that they're right up there. I don't know. I know there's always an argument about elk, and they are so cool because they're huge and they bugle. And maybe someday my mind will shift back when I take a huge bull with my bow. But man, I just love something about high country, bears, muleys, glassing. It's special. So they're both fun animals to watch.
We can stir up some controversy here. Mule deer are better than elk. I've heard others say that, the elk are the noisy frat boys of the mountain, and they're easy to hunt, which I haven't always found to be true. But in my opinion, finding an old mature buck that's been around for a while and seen some seasons it's a much tougher animal to hunt.
Yeah, man, I hear you. Well, dude, I appreciate it so much, man. Any concluding thoughts that you want to share before we go?
Just thanks for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to, come on here and talk to some folks. If anyone ever needs anything, you could reach out to me. I could plug my Instagram real quick. I'm always happy to answer questions. If you're literally on just advice, if anyone's on Go Hunt, my email's all over there, and I spend probably a couple nights a week answering questions for folks. So my Instagram handle is at, if I can remember it, so it's just David John 22, all no spaces, all lowercase with an underscore at the end. So hit me up, send me a friend request, shoot me a message. Anybody that's listening, I'm always happy to help, especially if it's going to get you out into the woods.
Outstanding, man. Well, I appreciate it. And you have been a huge supporter of mine from the get-go. So I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, man. And I look forward to having you back on the show sometime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
All right. Thanks again. And if this resonates with you, I want to welcome you to the tribe and encourage you to share this podcast with your friends. Hit subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Pursuing Freedom Outdoors. And if you or someone you know has a great story about life or the wilderness, I want to share it. You can shoot me a message on Instagram or email me with all inquiries and questions at thomas@pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. That's Thomas, Thomas, at pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. Until next time, get out there, get after it, and pursue freedom in the outdoors.